Introduction to One-Point Perspective Using Squares, Part 1. Hello, everybody. Hopefully everybody had an excellent weekend. What I want to do is welcome you to the first fifth grade art lesson of the year. Now, before we get started with the first fifth grade art lesson of the year, I first of all want to take care of some unfinished business. For those of you who have not handed in your name cards yet, they're going to be due this Friday, September 25th. So please get them either on my Schoolology message or in my email by that date. Now what I'm going to talk about a little bit is about the beginning of our project here. Actually, about our project. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with a blank piece of paper. And hopefully by the time this lesson is done, today, part one of it, you're going to end up with this. A one-point perspective drawing of squares. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over our learning objectives, a little bit of vocabulary too, and then we're going to get right on with the project. Okay? And the learning objectives you can see right on the lesson too that I have on the computer. First learning target is I can fold a piece of paper in half vertically and then in half horizontally to get 4 equal sections. We're going to need to get 4 equal sections for this. We'll be doing this in the step-by-step process. I can accurately draw 4 2x2 squares in the correct locations on the paper. Now, in years past when I've done these perspective drawings, I already have the shapes drawn out and I make copies of them. But being that I usually like doing this project the first part of the year, and none of you are here, we're going to have to make our shapes by ourselves today. Now, I took the triangles and the rectangles out because I didn't want to get into any measuring using half inches or quarter inches. I just wanted to stick to inches, and I was able to do that by doing the squares here. So that's what we're going to do. That's going to be our target here. One of our targets is going to be to go ahead and to be able to make the squares in the correct order. I can also place a vanishing point in the middle of the paper. I'll be talking about a vanishing point in a little bit here. That's the vanishing point. I can accurately, next learning objective is I can accurately draw perspective lines going from the corners of the squares to the vanishing point. These here are perspective lines. And next one is I can accurately divide the cubes to give the illusion of them getting smaller as they go back into space. What I'm talking about here is this, because we're kind of turning these into cubes or boxes as we're going back into space. We're going to go over that later on. And finally, I can identify one-point perspective, vanishing point, and perspective lines. One-point perspective is a drawing where objects appear smaller as they go into the distance. Lines from these objects meet at one point, and that point is the vanishing point. The vanishing point is where all these perspective lines meet up. And the perspective lines are coming from the corner of each square. All right, we're going to get started on the project now. The first thing I'm going to do is go over materials that we're going to need to get through these steps today. One, you're going to need a sheet of copy paper, preferably copy paper or something as close as you can get to copy paper. Second thing you're going to need is a pencil. Now I'm going to be using a black Sharpie to do this, but that's just because I need you to be able to see what I'm doing, and you won't be able to see it if I'm doing it in pencil. But I definitely recommend a pencil. That way, if you need to erase something, it's easy to erase. And last but certainly not least here, you're going to need a ruler too. And we're going to be working with the ruler not only to measure stuff, but also to draw straight lines too, because all these lines need to be straight on this project. Now, the side of the ruler we're going to be working with is the side with the inches on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I got certain parts on this ruler marked off because that's where we're going to be, those are the inches we're going to be going to quite often here. And you're not going to be able to see them from where I'm doing them, but you won't read the numbers, but you could probably still see the black marks where the numbers are. And that's important. All right, to get started here now, first thing you're going to do is you're going to need to take a piece of your paper here. You're going to line the corners up, and you're going to fold it in half this way, vertically like a book here, first of all. Just like this. Then you're going to go from top to bottom, line up the corners once again, and fold it. So that what you're going to have here is 1, 2, 3, 4 equal sections on here. It's important. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your ruler. We're going to come up here right at the top. You're going to take the top of the ruler so the top of the ruler is touching the top left edge of the paper here. Just like I got it here. And that means the numbers 9, 10, 11, and 12 should be hanging off the bottom, hanging off the paper. They're not on the paper. They're not touching the paper. They'll be off the paper. What I need you to do at the left edge of this paper is where you see the number 1 on your ruler and where you see the number 3 on your ruler, I need you to make 2 marks here at the left edge of the paper, just like I'm doing here. You might not be able to see them that great, but they're there. At the 1 and the 3, I'm making marks over here. Okay? One and 3 from the top here is where I made the marks, right at the left edge of the paper. Now from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler, and where I made that first mark here, actually not yet. Yeah, I could do it that way, actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay that ruler over here like this, horizontally, right under where I made that first mark at the 1-inch mark here. And if I'm doing it correctly, my number 11 should be touching the edge of the paper. Should be touching the right edge of the paper here, beginning of the ruler at that mark I made. What I'm going to do is I'm going to need to make a mark here at 4 different numbers. I'm going to need to make a mark at the 1, the 3, the 8, and the 10. So I'm going to lay that ruler, end of the ruler, right where that mark is, the first mark I made at the 1-inch mark over there on the left edge of the paper. And 11 is going to be touching the right edge of the paper. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 8, and 10 and make dots over there. 1, 3, 8, and 10 are where the marks are going to go. Next thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to slide that ruler back on down here again to where I made that mark at the on the left edge of the paper where I did it over by the when I was going this way, and I made a mark at the 1 and a mark at the 3. I'm going to lay the ruler right across here again horizontally where I made that mark by the 3 on the left edge of the paper. And once again, I'm going to make my same marks that I made before. I'm going to make them at 1, 3, 8, and 10 again. 1, 3, 8, 10. What you should have is you should have 4 dots on here and 4 dots on here, and they should be pretty much the same amount of space apart from each other, because those are going to be our squares in a little bit. Now what I'm going to do next is this. I'm going to turn the paper over. So now the bottom of the paper is now the top of the paper. And those little dots I made over here, well, they're on the bottom of the paper now. And once again, I'm going to repeat what I just did. First of all, I'm going to have to hold my ruler going vertically, going straight up and down here. Put the top of the ruler at the top of the paper. And that means the 9, 10, 11, 12, they're going to be hanging off the bottom of the paper again. And once again, I'm going to make the marks the same way I did before here at the left edge of the paper. I'm going to make one where the 1 is and where the 3 is. Right on that left edge of the paper again, just like I did up top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler, put it right up against where I made that mark at the 1-inch mark on the left edge of the paper there. I'm going to do the same thing I did. I'm going to lay that ruler down. The 11 is going to be touching the right edge of the paper here. And I'm going to make a mark again at the 1, 3, 8, and 10. 1, 3, 8, 10. Then I'm going to slide that ruler on down again to where I made that mark at the 3-inch mark on the edge of the left side of the paper here. Once again, I'm going to slide it so the 11's hanging off the right edge of the paper like this. And once again, I'm going to make a mark at the 1, the 3, the 8, and the 10. And that's all the measuring we're going to have to do for now. We will have to do a little bit more later on, but for now, we're done with the measuring. Bet you're glad about that, eh? Okay. Now, next thing to do, and this is important because squares have straight lines. So you need to use the ruler to get straight lines on your squares. And for those of you who don't remember, although most of you are used to using the rulers right now, I would think, because those of you that had me before, for drawing straight lines, you're going to hold the ruler down with the hand you don't draw with. Hold it down so it doesn't move around it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up against these first 2 dots over here, touch them with my pen. Well, you're going to touch them with your pencil. I got to touch them with my marker here, or my Sharpie. And I got to make sure when I'm drawing the line that my Sharpie and your pencil are going to need to be touching right up against that ruler to get the straight line in like this. got to be right up against the ruler. And I could do 2 for 1 here because I can also connect these two on the bottom also. These dots right here, using the ruler once again. Then I'm going to slide my ruler over here. I'm going to do the next 2 the same way. I'm going to concentrate on doing all my vertical lines here first of all. Same thing, touch the dots. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. My ruler's touching all of them. What I'm going to do, make sure my head's not in the way here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the dots again, right up against the ruler too. Make sure your pencils are right up against that ruler. Go ahead and put them in like that. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the right side of the paper here. Connect them. First of all, touch, 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 touch with the ruler. Make sure they're touching. Pencil right up against the ruler. Connect, connect. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do the same thing on these last set, or I'm going to make the last part of the vertical lines here on the square. Touch, touch, connect, connect. Then all I gotta do next is take my ruler once again. This time I'm gonna go right up top here. I'm gonna put the horizontal lines into my squares. Once again, I wanna make sure I'm holding that ruler down with my hand so the ruler doesn't move on me. And it's touching all the tops here. Make sure it's touching all 4 of them. And go across. And across here like I'm doing. Slide it on down. Do the same thing on the bottom of these. Touch, touch, touch. Touch, and hold down that ruler so it doesn't move. Put the bottoms in. Got my top squares here. Then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do the same thing on these bottom ones over here. Going to make sure all of them touch. And going to connect them once again. Touch, touch, connect, connect. And finish up on the bottom here doing the same thing. And once you're done with that, you're going to have your 4 squares here. Equally apart from the edges, equally apart from the middle, and also equal size. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the vanishing point. Now the vanishing point, it's going to go smack dab in the middle of the paper. Right where this fold line and this fold line meet, right at the intersection here is where the vanishing point's going to go. And put mine in now. And you can put yours in too. Smack dab in the middle. That's why I had you fold it before. Rather than having to measure it and everything, which we would have got into a little bit about measuring with 1/2 inches here. And I just wanted to do it that way because it's the easiest way to do it. Now that we're done with the vanishing point, our next step is to put in the perspective lines. Perspective lines are going to go here And let me get my one that's already kind of finished that you can see up here maybe a little bit. Yeah, I guess you can see it. The perspective lines are going to go from 3 corners of each square to the vanishing point using the ruler. The only one corners you're not going to go from are the corners of the squares that are closest to the corner of the paper. They don't need that because they're going to be blocked off by the front of, they're going to be blocked off from the front of the square. It's going to be blocking it off. But what you're going to do, and you don't necessarily have to start where I'm starting, but you're going to want to make sure, just like you were doing when you were connecting the dots, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to touch the corner of the square and the vanishing point. Touch them both. Make sure your ruler is touching them both, because if it's not touching them both, you're not going to get an accurate drawing. And from corner to the vanishing point, holding my ruler down so it doesn't move and going right up against the ruler so I get a nice straight line, I'm going to make my perspective lines. Then do one over here, one coming down from the bottom of this, and the third one coming down from the bottom. Touch, touch, right up against the ruler, connect. Go over on this side. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Go from the top corner here. Make sure my ruler's on my vanishing point. Make sure my ruler's on that top corner. Hold it down, right up against it. Move it over, do the same thing over here. Make sure it touches the vanishing point all the time. Corner, connect. I'm going to get it from the bottom over here. I'm going to do the same thing. Vanishing point, corner of the square. And I have another one done. Back over to this side now. Going to come from the top here again. Also touching the vanishing point here. I'm going to bring it right over here like this. Actually, I feel more comfortable doing it this way, so I'm going to come from here. Corner, vanishing point, connect. Corner, vanishing point, hold it right up against the ruler and connect. Corner, vanishing point, connect. Corner, vanishing point, connect. And one last time. Corner, vanishing point, and connect. And now I have all my perspective lines drawn in. And once you finish that step, you will too. Now we're going to have to get back into some measuring again. This time around, we're going to have to concentrate on the 5-inch and the 6-inch marks. 5 and 6. Actually, I'm not to that point yet. Silly me. I'm a step ahead of myself. We will eventually have to do that. But what we're going to do first is this. I'm going to lay my ruler right up against the outside of the right edge of these squares, just like this. See where the square is? Right here up against that vertical line, the right vertical line like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to measure anything yet here. But what I need to do is I need to hold that down in place with my ruler, or hold the ruler down in place with my hand, and I'm going to make two vertical lines here on the other side of the ruler. First vertical line is going to come from the top perspective line to the middle perspective line on the top square. Now on the bottom square, it's going to come from the middle perspective line to the bottom perspective line. Just like that. Top, middle, bottom, middle, bottom, middle. Now these lines, if you notice the edge of the square, it's going straight up and down. So is this line here, straight up and down, vertically, vertically. They're going in the same direction. They're going parallel to each other, which means if something goes parallel, that means that it's never going to cross. These two lines, I can draw these two lines all the way up to the clouds. If I had my ruler like this when I was drawing, they'd never cross each other. I'm going to have to put a couple more parallel lines in there too. Where I left off here, I still have the space between these two top perspective lines here on the bottom. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put horizontally over here like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it up till it comes and meets where this vertical line and the perspective line meet. Straight like this, two hands. And I'm going to make a line to connect. From here, I'm going to connect these two perspective lines with the horizontal line. Notice on the square, the horizontal line is at the top. And the one at the back that I turn this into a cube now is also horizontal. They're parallel to each other again. And by doing this, these two lines would never cross each other either. I could go all the way from one edge of the building to the other edge of the building with my ruler like this, going across if I had a big enough piece of paper, and these lines would still be not crossing each other. Now what you're going to need to do next is you're going to need to do the same thing over here on this bottom one too. Or on the top one, actually, on the top one. But this time you're going to line up the ruler here so it's touching the bottom of the square. And you're going to bring it down like this until it gets to where that vertical line and the perspective line touch each other. Right over here like this. And you're going to make a line going across here, just like so. Once again, these lines that I'm making now, ones I'm making from the bottom here or from the top here are going to be going horizontal, and the ones I'm making from the side are going to be going vertical. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. The other side, I'm going to lay my ruler. This time I'm going to need to lay my ruler off towards the left edge of these squares. But I'm going to do the same thing. Vertically here. On the top, I'm going to connect the top perspective line to the middle one. And on the bottom one, I'm going to connect the middle perspective line to the bottom perspective line. Just like that. Then I'm going to take my ruler. I can start from here. I'm actually going to start from here. I'm going to I'm going to put my ruler right up against the top of this square horizontally. And I'm going to slide it up, straight up like I'm doing here, till I get to where that vertical line and the perspective line meet each other. I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to connect the middle perspective line with this one over here on the right edge. That's going to give me my cube over here. I'm going to do the same thing over here, except this time I'm going down. I'm lining my ruler up with the bottom of the square. And I'm going to slide it down to here where this vertical line and the perspective line meet each other again. And I'm going to connect them in just like that. With my ruler, I'm going to have another nice horizontal line here. Kind of looks like if you went like this and this, like the shape of a nail there. Now here's where you're going to need to do a little bit of measuring. Because we want to make these look kind of smaller as they're going back. So I'm not just going to have you lay the ruler again here like this, because that'll be the same size. This is where the 5 and the 6 inch mark are going to come in handy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my ruler up here just like I had it before. The 11 is going to be hanging off the right edge of the paper. The beginning of the ruler is going to be over here. What I need to do, though, is I need to slide this ruler down so that the 5 and the 6 are going to be touching these top perspective lines. I'm going to slide it down. And I'm going to keep on sliding until they touch the perspective lines. I got them to do it right here. And what I'm going to do over there is I'm going to make 2 more dots. These dots are going to go on the perspective lines on the top of it here. Just like this. 5, 6 dot right over there. And I know you can't see the dots real good, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll bring it up so you can see where I put it. Okay, as I had my ruler, it would help if I had it the right way, but I slid it on down here where the 5 and the 6 are touching. That's where I made my dots. Now, next thing I need to do is I need to slide that, keep that ruler where it is for a second. And this time, I'm going to slide it down. My goal this time is to get that 5 and the 6 to be touching these bottom perspective lines over here. So I'm going to slide it on down again until the 5 and the 6 touch the perspective lines. And once they do, I will once again make my marks, this time on the bottom of the perspective lines here. Or the bottom perspective lines, I mean. Mark it at 5 and mark it at 6 and mark it at 5. Okay, just like that. Once again, I'll bring it up closer where you can see. Okay. And I'm getting close to the end of this part 1 of the project now. What I have to do is the same thing I did over here, and over here, and over here, and over here. I'm going to have to do again over here, 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 and here. So once again, I'm going to make my ruler go vertical like this. This time when I do it, however, I'm going to once again, I'm going to have to connect my top and my middle perspective line over here at the top. And I'm going to connect the middle and the bottom over here by doing, oh, and I kind of messed up a little bit there, but it'll still work. By doing the dot to dot thing here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler once again, and I'm going to need to slide it. Remember the last horizontal line I made over here and the last horizontal line I made over here? Well, I'm going to have to slide that down till it touches. Slide my ruler down to where it touches where the middle perspective line and the bottom perspective line are. I'm going to put this little horizontal line in there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side too. This time I'm going to go from top. I'm going to slide it to where the vertical line and the perspective line meet each other here. And where they meet each other, I'm going to put my other one in like that. Once again, you'll notice they're horizontal going straight across and vertical going straight up and down. I need to do the same thing on this side. Once again, I'm going to take my ruler, find where those dots are, and from the top dot here, I'm going from the top dot to that middle perspective line like this. And from the bottom one here, I'm going from the dots straight up vertically to the middle perspective line like this. Once again, I'll bring it closer to you so you can see it up here a little bit closer. There we go. I got 2 more lines to put in here. What I'm going to have to do next here is I'm going to need to take my ruler again. See where I left off with this perspective line over here? Well, I got a line, I'm just going to line it up at the bottom of the square actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this ruler down from the bottom of the square. And as I'm sliding it down, it should touch that last horizontal line I made there. And I'm going to keep on sliding it down until it comes where the middle perspective line and that vertical line coming from the top meet. And I'm just going to connect them in there like this, the middle and the bottom perspective line. And up here at the top, I'm going to do the same thing. Or at the top of this square. I'm going to slide the ruler up. I'm aiming for this spot over here where the vertical line and the perspective line, middle perspective line meet each other. So I'm aiming for there. Once I get there, I'm just going to connect that in like that. And that is the end, my friends, of part 1 of this project. When you're done, you should get something that looks like this, except lighter because you're doing yours in pencil. And keep them in pencil too. Now you don't have to turn these into me, but by Monday, so you're ready for part 2, by Monday, this part should be finished. Everybody have a terrific week, and you'll see me next week, same time, same channel. Goodbye.